It was just like any other day on the Storage Wars lot. Quick bids, noisy fights, and a lot of rubbish. But this auction felt different to Brandi Passante. She was drawn to one specific unit for some reason. It looked useless to everyone else. She thought it looked good. And when the contents finally came out, everyone in the cast knew they had just seen history being created. The experts on the show had to rush to check the numbers because the collection inside that filthy storage locker was so unique and precious. The ultimate amount was an amazing $1.2 million. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Brandi Passante was born in Harris County, Texas, in 1980. She grew up with brothers who, as she has said many times, liked to beat the heck out of her. Brandi says that her tough childhood made her tough, even though it can sound harsh. In an interview with Lifetime, she joked that all that roughhousing was the best way to prepare for the male-dominated world she would ultimately conquer on Storage Wars. She even posted a picture of herself as a toddler with a black eye on X, which was still named Twitter at the time, to back up her claim. It was more than simply a story for her. It showed that being tough was not an option. It was to stay alive. She expressed it herself in her job. If the boys see vulnerability, they'll walk all over you. Brandi learned early on that she had to stick up for herself. But her life before reality TV was very different. She talked about her youth on the Spirit Talk podcast, saying that it was hard for her because she often felt like an outsider, even in her own family. She stated she used to think about whether or not she had been adopted since she didn't feel like she belonged. A lot of people are okay with their situation, but Brandi never could be. She always thought there was something more out there for her, even as a child. Brandi had quite different aspirations long before Storage Wars made her famous. She wanted to be a chef when she was a kid in Houston. And even though she seems quite confident and sharp on TV, she has said that she is naturally bashful. She chuckled about how her shyness used to show itself when she was little in an interview with My Lifetime. Instead of talking to people, she would throw them dirty stares as a way to protect herself. That mix of strength and sensitivity stayed with her as she grew up. Brandi posted a video on Facebook in which she talked about how she played softball for 9 years. This shows that she had a competitive nature that would come in help later when she was working in storage lots. She grew up in a chaotic, boy-filled, and rough environment, which provided her the toughness she needed to succeed in an industry full with strong personalities. Before she became famous, Brandi was simply another young lady trying to make ends meet. She met her future partner, Jared Schultz, while working at a carpet cleaning firm in 1999. He was her supervisor, and Brandi says he was persistent, to the point of being annoying. She told the Philippine Daily Inquirer that Jared wore her down. Of course, Jared tells a totally different story. He joked during a Facebook Live session that Brandi was the one doing the chasing, saying that she pretty much pursued him after she got hired. He said that dating an employee wasn't the best idea and that a friend had to leave him notes on his truck to remind him to be nice to her because he might be a little rough around the edges. Jared often joked about how they didn't get along, stating that his looks weren't winning her over, so he used comedy and persistence. But Bry's side of the tale is the exact opposite. She added that Jared was always flirting with her, and at first it was more awkward than romantic. But being persistent paid off. All sources say that their beginnings was a battle of personalities. His charming stubbornness met her quiet strength. But no matter which version of the story you believe, one thing is apparent. It works. Brandi and Jared started dating. And from there, their trip went faster than any of them could have imagined. Brandi and Jared may never have gotten married, but they did start a family by raising their son Cameron and daughter Peyton. They've mostly kept their kids out of the public eye. Brandi has talked about some of the things her family has been through, notably the health problems they've had over the years. Brandi talked about PTON's hard start in life on the Dad Diary podcast. PTON was born with a cleft palate and deafness. She had her first surgery when she was only 6 weeks old, and it happily returned her hearing. Peyton had a little speech impediment after the incident, so she went to speech treatment for years. Brandi said that joining her school's cheerleading team later on helped her speech and her confidence a lot. Cameron had a health scare of his own. Doctors found a tumor on his kidney during a routine test for a urological problem. It took months of watching before his symptoms got worse, which meant a long hospital stay. Brandi recalls being with him for 3 months in the Children's Hospital of Orange County. 3 months that kept him out of high school but proved how strong he was. Brandi liked being a mother, but she quickly realized that she didn't want to remain home all the time. In an interview with My Lifetime, she said that even though she loved her kids, the experience made her feel alone and miserable. She thought that working made her a better mom. While Brandi took care of their kids, Jared moved into the mortgage business. But all changed when the recession came in the late 200s. He unexpectedly lost his job and wasn't eligible for unemployment payments. Finding a new job wasn't easy, he told the Orange County Register later. Then, out of the blue, Jared's aunt, who maintained a storage facility, came to his aid. She told him about the auctions for units that haven't been paid for, which gave him an idea. Jared and Brandi soon started going to those auctions, bidding on lockers, and selling whatever valuable things they found. Their house quickly filled up with everything they had found. Brandi even quipped that they were one step away from being on hoarders. That's when they decided to make something useful out of the mess by opening their own thrift store from time to time. When the shop initially opened, Brandi worked part-time. She shared her time between the store, her kids' classrooms, and home. The pair kept going to auctions even though business was becoming better. This choice would change everything. One day, while Jared was at an auction, he talked to a TV producer who was working on a new show idea involving storage auctions. Months later, the same producer called and arrived to their store with a crew of camera people. That day, Brandi just happened to be there, and they saw her right away. Jared said that the producer asked her name and if she would be okay being on video. That video became part of the pilot for a new show called Storage Wars. Neither of them knew how huge it would go at the moment. Brandi later told the Saline Courier that they didn't think it was a big deal and agreed to record a few minutes simply for fun. But that one choice led to popularity on reality TV. They had a natural chemistry and were always arguing, which made them excellent for TV. They got the nickname Young Guns on the show because they were a pair noted for their blazing energy and friendly competitiveness. Brandi quickly became the voice of reason, keeping Jared from spending too much money and going after ventures that were too hazardous. Fans appreciated how they interacted with each other, how they quickly came back with comebacks, how they fought playfully, and how their personalities clashed yet still worked together. It didn't take long for them to become fan favorites, especially after an early win that fans will never forget. In Season 1, they took a major chance by outbidding another buyer and spending $1,700 on a locker. They hit the jackpot when they opened it. A huge collection of old toys and valuable action figures valued around $12,800. Every bidder dreams of getting a score like this. But behind all that excitement, the Storage Wars kingdom started to fall apart. Dave Hester, a cast member, began to wonder how real the program really was. By 2012, his worries had grown so big that he filed a lawsuit against A&D and the producing business Original Productions. Hester said the producers were rigging the results by putting pricey stuff in lockers to make the discovery look more spectacular. He even said that he uncovered old articles that said Elvis Presley had died or a BMW tiny vehicle concealed under trash at certain times. Findings he thought were too fantastic to be true. Hester said in his lawsuit that the show wasn't just changed, it was made up. He said that the producers wrote the cast's interviews, set up fake auctions, and even paid for lockers when stars couldn't afford them. He also said that producers went so far as to pay for a female cast member's plastic surgery to make her look better on film. Tabloids instantly connected that claim to Brandi Passante, pointing out how she had lost weight and changed her clothes between seasons. Brandi, on the other hand, put an end to those speculations. When a fan asked if her breasts were fake, she simply said, "No, Jacka," and that was the end of it. She has also laughed off strange internet allegations that she is an exotic dancer or has 2 fingers, showing that she is not afraid of the crazy side of reality TV stardom. Brandi has always been sure that the show is real. There are real storage wars. She said that it would be against the law to mess with storage auctions because they are open to the public. She remarked that the only thing that was staged was the editing. The program is about the fun lockers, not the boring ones. She said that not every unit is a jackpot, but that's how the company works. Hester's claims, on the other hand, still have a lot of weight. Andy wasn't very happy to be accused of fabricating his biggest hit. At the time, Storage Wars was the second most popular show on TV, after Duck Dynasty. The network dismissed Hester in response and, at least initially, declined to say anything about the complaint in public. When they eventually did, they stood by the presentation and said that everything was real and that there was no staging. But AE's legal defense portrayed a different story, which was a surprise. Instead of denying everything, they used the First Amendment to say that producers had the right to make the show as they wanted. Their lawyers even said that only game shows have to be 100% real by law. They said that Storage Wars wasn't one of them. Tom Beers, the creator of the show, later said that they do right around half of what viewers hear and sometimes blend the greatest items from other lockers to keep things interesting. Nobody wants to watch somebody search through mountains of rubbish for hours on end. The point was to make a decent TV show, not a documentary. In the end, the lawsuit found a shaky middle ground. The judge threw out several of Hester's claims, but his lawsuit for wrongful termination was permitted to go on. He wanted $750,000 in damages because he said he was dismissed for speaking up. Andy pushed back, saying that free speech laws protected the show's creative choices. In the end, all sides came to an agreement, and strangely, there didn't seem to be any bad blood. The contract also made it possible for Dave Hester to come back to the show. But they had no idea that the courtroom drama was nothing compared to what was about to happen. Bry's life changed completely in the fall of 2012. A lady who looked precisely like her started posting obscene pictures and a video of herself on an adult website overnight. What's the problem? It wasn't her, but the person who ran the site didn't care. They said that the woman in the video was the main character on Storage Wars. A name that the internet knew all too well was at the center of the mayhem. Hunter Moore. Moore's website, Anyone Up, was popular in the early 2010s. Was known for posting pornographic stuff without permission, which was a digital nightmare for anyone who came upon it. He had even been banned from Facebook for using stolen profile photographs that were linked to sexual content. He just moved his business to Tumblr and Twitter once the door closed. There, he posted the phony video and said it featured Brandi Passante. Brandi first heard about it when her Twitter feed was flooded with messages. She made it plain from the start that the video was phony, but that didn't halt the harm. Later, she said the whole thing was scary and that her main fear was that her family would find the video online. Brandi was determined to clear her name, so she sued Moore for defamation, invasion of privacy, and consumer fraud. The court documents explained how shocked and embarrassed she was, stressing that she had never created a film like that or even talked to Moore. The phony content was made just to take advantage of her fame and get people to visit his site. She wanted $2.5 million in damages. She legally won the lawsuit, but the court only gave her $750, which made her feel empty. Moore made things worse by making fun of her on social media after the fact, showing that he had learnt nothing from the ruling. Bry's beauty have drawn unwanted attention before, and the invasion of her privacy wasn't the only occasion. Fans have long said that rude comments about her looks were widespread online and even made their way onto the show itself. One point that was really awkward was when Barry Weiss, a cast member, made a suggestive joke about how he likes to dip cigars in brandy. It sounded harmless on the surface, but most people thought it was a cruel joke about her name. The exchange instantly became one of the most talked about parts of the performance. Fans on sites like Reddit and NeoGAF couldn't stop talking about how angry Brandi looked and how Weiss's comment went too far. That clip still comes up years later, a reminder that women in the public eye often have to deal with a lot more than what people see. But the show was about to find something more darker than the headlines and the lawsuits. The fifth episode of Season 5 of the A&D reality show included one of the most terrifying discoveries in the whole show. Brandi opened a locker that was so scary that she nearly didn't want to unpack it. Right away, there was a clue that something weird was going on. A real deer skull with decorations on it. It had beads in the style of a ceremony tied around its antlers, which gave it a creepy feel right away. Even then, Zach Carter couldn't help but joke about. He picked up an old, dried-up ear of corn that was near to the skull and pretended to gnaw on it. Bri's response said it all. She didn't want any of it in her store, but that was just the start. The more they dug, the more distressing the things they found got. There was a sack with preserved chicken bones, another with what looked like human hair, and a bizarre rattle made of bird beaks. The most stunning thing was a wooden scepter used in rituals that had a picture of a man with a chicken on his head etched onto it. Brandi couldn't help but ask if that was the kind of thing a chief would use for a sacrifice. But everyone hoped that wasn't the case. Brandi and Jared still bought the locker for $900, even though it was full of scary stuff. They somehow made money off of it. One still has to wonder what happened to that strange scepter. Then there was another shocking occurrence that made me feel both scared and shocked. While Schultz was looking through another locker, she accidentally knocked over Passante, who then found something that looked like it came right out of a nightmare, a case full of human teeth. Schultz attempted to stay cool and thought they were sophisticated dental implants, but Passante said they were real teeth. They were both right in the end. Experts from the OCS Dental Academy revealed that the team's grisly find was actually a collection of old dentures. A long time ago, dentists used medical-grade wax to adhere individual teeth to dentures. Even though the collection was old and rare, it was only worth about $300, which is a modest amount for such a terrible find. But the surprises didn't end there. In the second episode of Season 6, Schultz found what could be the weirdest locker yet, a giant My Little Pony plush doll that you can ride. People weren't surprised by the toy itself. It was what it said about the person who owned it before. Brandi said that there were films on bronies, who are adults who collect My Little Pony toys. Schultz didn't believe it at first, but that didn't last long. As Passante playfully tried to retain the big pink pony for herself, Schultz uncovered the true treasure, a huge container full of My Little Pony toys and other things. Many of them. It's clear that this locker used to belong to a serious collector. Then came the finding that could haunt anyone's sleep. Brandi and Jared found a doll that appeared like it came right out of a horror movie in Season 8, Episode 18, Boys and Dolls. Skin that was peeling, eyes that looked dead, and a feeling that shouted haunted. Of course, Jared couldn't help but tease Brandi by making the doll talk in his scary voice until she was absolutely scared. When they brought the doll to Dr. Tony, the doll doctor, the news was both humorous and sad. On a good day, the scary doll was only worth approximately $50. Brandi thought the best thing to do with it was to give it to her dogs to chew on. Bri's answer to what her favorite find was surprisingly straightforward. When she was on the Happening Now with Hammer Newport Beach podcast, she said that she valued usefulness over flair. She liked the things she found that she could sell immediately for cash the most. That was what made the enterprise worth it. She also talked about the less exciting parts of the work. On TV, it might look exciting when purchasers find a safe, but most of the time they only find a piece of paper or, in her case, a binder full of cutout photographs from adult magazines. She is still hopeful, though, because that life-changing windfall could be in the next unit. Brandi also talked about one of the problems of making the show, which was gaining permission from storage providers to film. She said that big corporations like Public Storage wouldn't let the crew film on their land. They thought it was just lousy business. They didn't want to let people know that if they didn't pay, their stuff could end up on TV being sold at auction. Brandi said, "There's a reason there isn't a show called Foreclosure. No business wants to bring attention to that part of their business." In her opinion, the storage chains are doing just fine without the attention, and they'd prefer keep that painful truth hidden. But just when viewers thought they had seen it all, Bri's real-life drama took a turn that no one expected coming. Fans noticed right away that something was different when the 2021 season of Storage Wars started. Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz were no longer together. Brandi told everyone herself that she and Jared had broken up and would now be bidding separately. Jared agreed, saying they could still go to the same auctions, but not together. But things between Brandi and Jared got worse not long after the season started. TMZ says that a few weeks after the April 2021 premiere, Brandi was at a bar in Orange County with pals when Jared walked up. They had a furious dispute, and Brandi told him to go. He said no. Witnesses say things got worse and the cops were summoned in the end. Brandi said that Jared pushed her twice before he left. When the police caught up with him later, he said he hadn't done anything physical, but he was nonetheless charged with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. After that, Jared was not seen on Storage Wars again. The network never said for sure that he was dismissed, but his absence spoke a lot. Brandi, on the other hand, seemed to do well on her own. She kept bidding by herself and got some great scores. One great occasion was when she paid only $35 for a storage container so that her friend and co-star Kenny Crossley could help her go through it. She gave him food as a bribe. That bet paid off big time. They unearthed a sewing equipment from the Victorian era that was worth $900. The whole locker made her more than $3,000. And certainly, Crossley got the home-cooked lunch he deserved. Brandi Passante's life is a little different now, but her drive is still the same. Fans still love her as the Texas-born treasure hunter they fell in love with when Storage Wars initially aired. The biggest change is that she's doing it by herself now.